Now, Hillary Clinton has been hitting the campaign trail with Elizabeth Warren, who who appeared with her last night in Cincinnati and basically took the time to attack Donald Trump as well as boost Hillary Clinton. In fact, she said that Clinton fights for us. She fights for us, and we will fight for Hillary Clinton. She fights for us. Yeah, okay, sure, all right. Is that before or after she helps the bankers? I gotta ask. Now, of course, taking Warren on the campaign trail, to me, is obviously an effort to energize progressives so that they can then be delivered to Hillary Clinton in November. Hey, get excited about Elizabeth Warren and then vote for Hillary. Now, the thought being that if we give the illusion that Clinton is a progressive by campaigning with a progressive and floating the idea of picking her as a VP, well, then those Bernie Sanders supporters that are so stubborn, well, they'll finally fall in line. Because, oh, wow, look at her. She's taking such a risk with Elizabeth Warren. Maybe she is a liberal. And maybe she was just pretending to be a Wall Street tool the whole time. Now, I love how the establishment thinks that we're going to fall for that line and forget about all the political corruption and campaign contributions from billionaires, from Wall Street, from corporations, pharmaceutical corporations, health insurance corporations, you name it. She's taken money from it, okay? But now here comes the really insulting thing. See, now that the establishment thinks that Sanders supporters who don't want Trump are thinking about voting for Clinton, basically in order to stop a madman, right? Well, now that we're starting to say, well, we can't have Donald Trump. He's crazy. He's going to do irreparable harm to the economy. We don't know exactly what shape that will take, but we know it's going to be bad. We can smell a shit sandwich coming a mile away. So, now that the establishment says, we got you Bernie Sanders supporters, you're going to have to vote for Clinton. What are you going to do, vote for Trump? Well, now that they have us in that position, they think that they can stop being progressive or pretending to be progressive. Now, there's an article out in Politico titled, "Does Hillary Clinton Still Need Elizabeth Warren?" Now, in it, they cite polls that showed that despite Warren, liberals are starting to come around and saying, okay, well, look, we're not going to get Bernie Sanders. It's obvious that he's not going to win. So maybe I'm thinking about holding my nose to vote for Clinton. And they're trying to spin this as a positive, by the way. Quote, "As the party increasingly consolidates around Clinton, and a new series of polls shows her nationwide lead expanding over Trump, the political logic behind the once widely held idea that Clinton needs the progressive icon on her ticket in order to win over skeptical Bernie Sanders voters is beginning to erode." Quote, "Clinton's lead over Trump grew to 12 points this week, according to an ABC Washington Post poll released on Sunday. In the NBC Wall Street Journal poll, it was 5 points. Clinton's favorability also climbed 15 points among Sanders supporters over the last month, according to the NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Just as important, the number of Sanders supporters who say they'll support Trump has dropped from 20% 1 month ago to 8% in June. Together, they say, the numbers are painting a picture of a presumptive nominee who will have more leeway in selecting her running mate than anyone expected just a month ago." Oh, see, you thought that the establishment would be okay with Clinton possibly picking a progressive. No. This is so that you bow your head to the establishment and you vote for the establishment candidate. Quote, "The Sanders voters will come on board because the decision will be Clinton versus Trump, not Clinton versus Sanders," says Andrew Smith, director of the University of New Hampshire Survey Center. "I really don't think she needs to have them on board by having someone like Warren on the ticket. It's not like she needs what Warren offers. The Bernie voters are going to be on her side anyway in the general election, so trying to make calculations to assuage them doesn't make a lot of sense." You see, this is how they think. We cheated Bernie Sanders out of the nomination using every dirty trick that we could think of, but then we brought in Elizabeth Warren to trick them into falling in line. And now that you've bowed your head, they're going to give up all pretense of being progressive. I mean, why try to assuage them by being progressive when we have a more metaphorical gun to your head in the form of Donald Trump. It couldn't have worked out more perfectly for the establishment candidate. And now Hillary Clinton can pick whoever the fuck that she wants to be her VP without worrying about the political ramifications. Now, I think that she will pick Tim Kaine. Why Tim Kaine? Well, he's safe and he's Wall Street approved. And he's incredibly boring. But that's just my opinion, right? Now, this article continues to go into why Clinton probably will not pick Warren as her VP. Quote, for all their apparent chemistry in the stump, the prospect of a Warren vice presidency is still in many ways a risky one. Not because of Warren's star power, or not least because of Warren's star power and her status as a lightning rod for many Republicans. Oh, we can't pick Warren. No, she's got too much star power. She'll overshadow Hillary Clinton, and she's too much of a lightning rod for Republicans. No, we don't want that. We don't want to irritate the Republicans, especially when we want to make a deal with Republicans. The first 100 days of a Clinton presidency, you can guarantee rubber stamping TPP, as well as trying to come to a deal with the Republicans to guess what? Probably cut entitlements. You know it. Look, if Hillary Clinton is Obama 2.0, well, you got to remember, President Obama put Social Security on the table. Now, they always talk about, every politician talks about, how I want to save Social Security. I'm going to protect Social Security against the other guys. The other guys aren't going to cut it. Even Republicans use that against Barack Obama. That's after he decided to put it on the table, change CPI, after the Simpson-Bowles Commission, in order to try to make a debt deal with the Republicans. The Republicans said absolutely not. Not because it didn't cut, or that it cut it too much, and that they wanted to protect Social Security. No, it's because they didn't cut it enough. They didn't get them a good enough deal for the Republicans to take it. You think Hillary won't try to make that same deal? And you think the Republicans are stupid enough to pass on it a second time? Come on. That's why they don't. That's another reason the establishment doesn't want Warren. Well, she's not going to let that fly. She's going to say, oh, whoa, Hillary. You're not going to cut Social Security. You're not going to put that on the table. That's not what we stand for as Democrats, as liberals. Oh, but I forgot you're not a liberal. Right. That's another reason that they're not going to pick her. Now, the Republicans, on the other hand, I don't know if you noticed, they nominated Donald Trump, a guy who was called Mexicans, rapists, and criminals. And these guys, the establishment, is too worried about Trump, about Warren being too much of a lightning rod, because she's actually challenged bankers. Which, by the way, is why Wall Street was threatening to withhold campaign contributions to Hillary Clinton if she picks Elizabeth Warren. All right, the article continues. And this is with a quote from Monmouth University pollster Patrick Murray. Quote, there is no evidence that suggests that vice presidents can bring a significant bump to the president. They can help at the margins with a smaller specific constituency group, or in their home state, perhaps by a couple of points, but no more than that. I don't think we've seen a real significant vice presidential pick since Lyndon Johnson. Now that's interesting. There was a poll out a couple of weeks ago, and I covered that, in which no vice presidential contender swings a significant amount of voters towards Clinton other than Sanders. So now Elizabeth Warren doesn't really bring anyone, right? Anyone new to the party, doesn't really bring voters in. Tim Kaine actually drives voters away. There were some other ones on there. There was Cory Booker, which was an obvious choice, a very safe Wall Street choice, who's actually sort of popular in New Jersey. And then there were some other ones, fairly standard picks. Julian Castro, for example. They're on there. None of them brought any new people to the party other than Bernie Sanders. Now, of course, she's never going to pick Bernie Sanders. She's already ruled him out. How dare you run against me? I don't care how many people you bring to the party. We don't want your kind of people because your kind of people are progressive and we are not. So, so that's a reason to say, well, look, Elizabeth Warren, she's not really bringing anybody new, so why would we pick her? Why don't we pick someone that's Wall Street approved, that's not going to stop our campaign contributions? Someone like Tim Kaine or Cory Booker or Julian Castro. All very safe Democrats. And the case for Tim Kaine is that he comes from Virginia. He might be able to rally some votes to from Virginia and switch it over to Clinton during the November election. That might help with her. So goes the establishment thought. Now, he continues. What I think is going to bring Sanders voters enthusiastically over to Hillary Clinton, and think about that word, is if Bernie Sanders gives her a full-throated endorsement. And at that point, the vice presidential pick doesn't matter. Without that, Elizabeth Warren is not going to be much of a draw for them because the cult of personality right now surrounding Sanders won't go away. Now, once again, they completely missed the point. It's not because it's a cult of personality around Sanders. All they think is that this frumpy 74-year-old man with a hoarse voice, somehow he's got this cult of personality around him because for some reason, he attracts all the younger people. No, they're missing the point. We're not rallying around Bernie Sanders because of something Bernie Sanders does or says. It's because of the ideas that he represents, the policies that he's been advocating for 30 years. That's why. It's not a cult of personality. It's about the policies. And here the establishment does not understand that fact, that we're in here for the policy, for Medicare for all, for free college tuition, for a living wage, for being able to basically unfuck our trade deals and to not go with things like the TPP or not do fracking. All the stuff that Hillary Clinton is in favor of, that bad stuff. As far as the minimum wage goes, she's still for the $12 minimum wage. And she refuses to regulate the banks the way that they need to be regulated and broken up. It's not about a cult of personality. It's about the policies. And they never seem to understand that. But I'll tell you one thing as well. As a Bernie Sanders supporter, when it comes to enthusiastically going over to Clinton, I'm not sure that anything Clinton can do or Bernie Sanders can do that will make me enthusiastic about voting for her. Once again, there's nothing exciting about Hillary Clinton. She is the no-change establishment candidate. This whole message, this is a whole nother message of, hey Bernie, why don't you shut up and endorse Hillary Clinton already? And that's essentially, they keep pushing that. Because stringing along Warren obviously hasn't really worked. And hasn't worked to bring a lot more people to Hillary Clinton. And basically, they brought her along so that some of us Sanders supporters would bow our heads to the establishment and say, oh, well, you know what? She's making an effort by campaigning with Elizabeth Warren. Something that we like. So obviously we're going to like Clinton too. No, that's not how this thing works. Now, this was a pollster, right? When they asked the Hillary Clinton camp, well, they're even more condescending to Bernie Sanders supporters. Quote, as people close to Clinton's operation are quick to note, the most vehement anti-Clinton Sanders backers are clustered in liberal enclaves, not swing states, locales like Cleveland or Tampa. They think the fear of a tough unification process is overblown. Once again, they don't understand. Bernie-crats are everywhere. We're not just clustered in so-called liberal enclaves. We're everywhere. Now, some of those people are going to go to Trump. Why? Because they can't stand Hillary Clinton and they can't stand the status quo. And who is the face of the status quo right now? Hillary Clinton. I'm not saying Trump isn't. Trump is an establishment candidate, branding himself as one who is not. And he's somebody who will not just, he won't solve the problems. He'll actually make a lot of these problems much worse. But once again, they don't get it. And as far as this message, basically it's saying, you progressives don't really matter anyway. I mean, you're in those liberal enclaves. You don't really matter. I mean, you're not gonna matter in a general election. So why waste our time to appeal to you. I mean, sure, we spend a little bit of time trying to, after we've called you all sexist Bernie bots and Bernie bros and said all sorts of horrible things about you and tried to destroy your candidate through smear tactics. But hey, look at us. We just trotted out Elizabeth Warren. Why don't you bow your head? Why aren't you Bernie Sanders supporters coming around to the establishment? You know what? If you're not, fine. We don't need you anyway, because you're in all liberal enclaves. It's amazing, and look. This is nothing more than dismissal from not only the establishment but the press. And look, the least that Hillary Clinton could do is go up against Wall Street and actually pick Elizabeth Warren. And now you have the press putting out articles saying, oh, you know what? Don't do that. We don't actually need Warren at all. So ignore that. We want to keep that money flowing. We don't want to go up against your threat. And that's what this is about. Look, here's a clue if you haven't figured it out already. They were never going to pick Elizabeth Warren anyway. And I would be massively surprised if they did. Why? Because Hillary Clinton does not have a not politically calculated bone in her body. Everything is careful, measured, weighted, and studied, and poll tested. And ironically, as this article illustrates, unfortunately they haven't learned anything from the rise of Bernie Sanders. They just haven't learned, and they won't learn.